Hello and welcome to a new episode of History in 7 Facts, the show in which we explore some interesting episodes of humanity's past. Check out this playlist to watch the entire series, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Abraham Lincoln is remembered today as a calm, compassionate and wise leader. But very few people realize that in actuality there were two different Abraham Lincolns. One was the great leader we all know today. The other was a short-tempered, gloomy man with frequent mood changes. Not so many people know today that Abraham Lincoln was in fact suffering from depression, and he did so for a long time. So long that he actually got used to it. His depression was not without reasons. His life was tragic and harsh, which left him many times without any hope. But unfortunately, the medication he was on did more harm than good and pushed him even more to the edge. At the end, Lincoln was described as suffering from melancholy, as the idea of clinical depression hadn't been developed yet. To counter the effects of this disease, he often took blue mass, a mercury-based medicine. Mercury, as we all know today, is highly toxic, and these pills could explain some of Lincoln's weird behaviors. Blue mass contained licorice, althea petals, rose oil, and about 33% pure mercury, and was prescribed primarily for digestion problems. Whether they helped him or not, we cannot know for sure, but one of his friends and partners, John Todd Stewart, told after his death that Abraham was a very unhappy man, an image of discouragement. He also said that Lincoln began taking his pills before he came to Washington, and continued to take them for a few months after he became president. But mercury is a highly toxic substance, and each blue mass pill contained about 65 milligrams of the stuff, which is thousands of times more than the maximum quantity that's considered safe today. Normally, most of that mercury wouldn't have been absorbed by the body, but using a mortar and pestle to grind the ingredients would have made the particles small enough for them to be absorbed almost entirely. This has been confirmed in several studies, and such large quantities of mercury can easily explain Lincoln's symptoms like insomnia, rage, tremors, and mood swings. Henry Clay Whitney, one of Lincoln's close friends and partners when he was a lawyer, mentioned that he was often overwhelmed by a rage that can only be described as terrifying. In one instance, in 1858, during a debate in Congress, he became so angry that he grabbed a counselor and shook him uncontrollably. Nevertheless, Abraham Lincoln became the United States' 16th president. He led the nation through the Civil War and ended up being one of the country's most admired and respected leaders. But how did Lincoln become so ill? What caused his depression in the first place? He was born in 1809 in a family of pioneers in a one-room log cabin in Hardin County, Kentucky. Together with his sister Sarah, he grew up in very poor conditions. He also had a brother, Thomas, who died at an early age. When Abraham was just 9 years old, his mother also passed away, as did his uncle and aunt. His sister also died while giving birth when Abe was just 18 years old. In 1835, his first love, Anne Rutledge, died of typhoid fever. In 1840, he got engaged with his future wife, Mary Todd, but they broke off their engagement less than a year later. During this time, his friends were fearing the worst. He had shown signs of suicidal behavior and was deeply depressed. Lincoln himself wrote that if his feelings would be divided to all, no man would smile again. To top it all off, in 1850 his second child, Edward, died of tuberculosis at the age of 3. Lincoln and those around him considered his affliction to be melancholy. He himself realized the abnormality of his behavior and was ashamed of it, a symptom that is associated with depression. It didn't help that his political career wasn't going well. He lost a nomination to Congress in 1843 and again in 1856 for the vice presidency. His blue mass pills didn't actually help alleviate the symptoms. No one knows how many pills the future president took, but it's known that he placed a great deal of trust in doctors, so he probably took a lot of these pills. And he wasn't alone with his symptoms. At the time, hatters were known to have wild outbursts similar to what Lincoln had. This was because they were constantly exposed to high levels of mercury vapors while making felt hats. Lincoln stopped taking pills some 5 months after he became president. He admitted that the pills were making him, as he said, cross and not himself. His misfortunes, however, didn't end. In 1862, his third son, William, died of typhoid fever at the age of 12. Researchers tested the actual toxicity of blue mass, recreating the pills based on a 19th century recipe. They grinded the ingredients just like they would have been back then and discovered that the resulting particles were small enough to be absorbed into the body. The pills were also mixed with chlorhydric acid to simulate stomach acid and then strained through a membrane similar to bowel membrane. Thus, they discovered that just one single pill would have given the body 85 to 90 micrograms of pure mercury. Blue mass was often prescribed as a laxative and a remedy for fever, but also for a myriad of other afflictions. While they did seem to work on the digestive tract, they seriously affected the nervous system, causing all the known symptoms Lincoln had. Although they didn't cause his depression, they definitely worsened it. During Lincoln's presidency, millions of young Americans died on the battlefield. From his journals and letters, we know that the president felt directly responsible for these deaths. But he also admitted that there was no other way to preserve the Union but war. Once he stopped taking blue mass, Abraham Lincoln became a calmer and more patient man and was renowned as a true leader and a role model for thousands. He became the man who led America to victory and preserved the country. He was the man who initiated the end of slavery in the Union. Nevertheless, he never escaped his depression, and in his private life, he was one of the most tormented and unhappy leaders of the modern age. Thank you for watching this episode of 7 Facts. I hope this was interesting and informative, and maybe it even inspired you to look into it further on your own. If you liked this video, please thumbs up and subscribe. While you're downstairs, let me know what you think about this video. Please consider visiting my Patreon page and become a patron. The link is in the description. I hope to see you next time. Bye.